Hello, my name is Jordan from Soups and Sabers,
And I'm Logan from the Screen Society podcast.
and we are continuing our joint coverage of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms with episode 4-7, written by Aziza Barnes and Annie Julia Wyman and Ira Parker, directed by Sarah Adina Smith, and it aired February 6, 2026 on HBO Max. And I believe it airs on HBO tonight, February 8th, 2026. So we are 4 episodes in. Logan, how's it feel to be 4 episodes in? We only got 2 left, and I feel like I just talked to you about this show a couple days ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's become a regular thing where we just talk about this every day. Although, Jordan, I'm talking about this show every day
Are you?
because of how good it is. So, yeah, 2 episodes left. I was looking forward to this more than the Super Bowl. I'm not watching the Super Bowl this year, but
Are you not?
no, I'm not. But yeah, I was pumped that I got to watch this on Friday. I know it's a longer wait till the next one, but still pretty excited about where this is headed. And this is one of the best, I would say, one of the best Game of Thrones shows that or episodes that we've ever gotten. Like, this is a damn good episode.
I'll probably talk about it throughout the episode when we are highlighting certain things, but this is like an almost perfect adaptation of the novella part of this, and what I've been looking forward to. And like I said a couple weeks ago when I saw the episode title 7, I'm like, oh, okay, 4 seems earlier than I thought it would be. Kind of wondering how they would structure this. 30-minute episodes. We've been used to that so far, but it's a short novella. But this is like one of the big points of that novella. I'm not sure if you got up to this point yet after of the novella. But this is I've been looking forward to this speech for a bit, because when I was listening to that audiobook of the novella, hearing that speech that he makes, are there no true knights in Westeros, it gave me goosebumps, and seeing it in live action gave me the same feeling, and I was very happy with how it was portrayed. Um, I guess before we get into the scene by scene or like discussion of it, this show has continued to do the potty humor. They have I guess the fart has a point in this, but I was a little disappointed that came up after this, in the middle of this great speech. But the knight is kind of pulling a Monty Python on the Holy Grail and farting in his general direction there. So, I mean, I guess that is, they're kind of showing that it's not going over well for him. But I have continued to see that complaint creep up that these episodes continue to resort to the flatulence, the shit, and the cocks.
Yeah, a lot of bathroom humor in this show, which from what I remember of Game of Thrones, we didn't really get hardly any. I mean, there's a couple I think that we do, but not to this extent.
Yeah, and I think that was their. I could kind of see it in the first episode when
Yeah,
you're trying to subvert the expectation, like your favorite director Ryan Johnson likes to do in a lot of movies, but
right.
he but I think it made sense there. I'm kind of disappointed it's continued to be a trend, but because I'll say toilet humor is not my favorite humor when it comes to humor. So and I just thought it maybe took a little bit away from the speech or the how good the speech was. But overall, really enjoyed this. I think it is the best episode of the show so
Yeah.
far. If we're talking about just this show, I mean, um, this this is exactly what I wanted. Like I texted you, this is like a perfect adaptation of that stuff where we open up with Dunk in a cell and Egg enters and explains that he is Aegon, and Dunk is initially very cold to him and very kind of hurt that and kind of like, what I would say this kind of reminds me of are those like teen comedies where romantic comedies where like the guy makes a bet with his friends that he can take the unattractive girl to the dance. And then the unattractive girl takes off her glasses and she's beautiful. She's Rachel Lee Cook. And then they go, and then it comes out that this was all from a bet and she's hurt. And then he has to go and say, "No, I really did love you." It feels very like that, where Dunk is thinking this is some sort of like maybe like game or trick that Egg is messing around with him, but we'll soon find that Egg is just really looking for an escape from his family and from his, position in life.
Yeah, no, I love that comparison because I think you're right. I think Egg saw it more as just getting away from my family, and this night just so happened, which Dunk mentions at a point where he's just like, luck brought us together, nothing else. Like this isn't a true relationship. And the reason why we were together is because you got bored with your family, you don't like your family, and this had nothing to do with you actually caring about being my squire. Like this had nothing, and you kind of get that sense. And then it's really cool though because like he Dexter Ansel plays this so well. Like his ability to cry at that age and like really, I mean, and I saw a really cool interview about this scene, and they said that it was shot over a couple of hours, and they did multiple takes of this. And they said, and Dexter said that nobody ever like talked in between stoppage. Like when they had to cut, the directors and stuff and producer would look at like, what it looked like on the film, but nobody really talked because they wanted to stay in that moment. And you can see that. I mean, you can see just the hurt of Egg. Like he knows just that he hurt Dunk and that Dunk could die because of this. And you can see that he's like a little kid going, shit, I messed up.
And he does, try to tell Dunk that that it's not all about that luck, right? He's trying to say, I'm supposed to squire for Daeron, and he is not a good knight, right? So you should be taking it as a compliment, right? Dunk should be, that this prince looks at Dunk as like somebody worthy to squire for, and doesn't look at his own brother as somebody worthy to squire for. So I thought that's nice. And then we get Baelor coming in and kind of explaining that not only does he have to face for what he did to Arian, but Daeron is saying that is accusing him of kidnapping Egg, and it's adding like another charge to the to his charges, and it's going to make like the upcoming trial a little worse for him, to the point where he seeks a trial by combat, which we are familiar with through Game of Thrones. Tyrion does a couple of these throughout Game of Thrones when he's at the Eyrie, going up at the Eyrie against like his charges for trying to kill Bran, right? With the dagger that is actually somebody else's. I guess I won't spoil that. And then there's the time he's, also charged for killing somebody else that he didn't, that he is asked for a trial by combat. But there's a twist here, because Arion asks for a trial of 7. And what this is where you have to find 6 others to fight for your cause on both sides. So it's 7v7. If they cannot find enough people, the out is that, well, the gods have judged that you are guilty, or that your case is not strong enough if you're the person challenging this person. And if they lose, the gods also have judged them guilty. And the reason it's 7 is because the 7 gods of the Andals, where they, we hear that a lot in Game of Thrones too, of like the 7 being the god. So I guess each one of these gods would be represented in one of these challengers, and whoever wins, the gods wanted them to be the victors. Now, you and I are not super religious, so I wanted to ask, like, what are your thoughts on that? I'm not saying Arion is religious in this. This is actually just a way I think he's trying to have his fun without. I don't know if he is nervous about going 1v1 against Dunk. His dad kind of thinks that, like, Makar is kind of like, "Are you scared to face this hedge knight?" And I don't know if that's what it is, but he kind of pulls this old trick out to have what in my mind is avoiding the trial by combat is probably what his thought is, because he probably thinks that there is no way Dunk is getting six others to fight for his cause. But I just kind of think it's funny that like when we think back to like religions and stuff, and I think one reason why this world of Westeros is very, very interesting to me is it is like fully fleshed out, right? We have a religion here that some of the people believed in that has seven gods, and that they have this ritual that if there's a trial of seven, it makes sense. Whoever wins, then the gods deemed it. So we see that all the time in sports, right? The guy scores a touchdown and says, at the end of the game, like, thank you, God, for blessing me with this, or, that type of thing. So back then, I guess, or, in this fantasy world, that's kind of what they're thinking. But I think the logic of it is funny that there's pretty much, it's very heavily favoring the most popular person, because if you can't find six other people, then you're guilty. If you lose, you're guilty. So it's like it's kind of very skewed towards the challenger, I feel like.
Especially when their
Nobles?
father, grandfather are the nobles. Like you're gonna go up against and in this time
And that's kind
frame,
of the roadblock that Dunk
right?
is having in this.
Yeah, and in this time frame, like if you go back to when Dunk is having the conversation with Baelor after he gets out of the prison, Egg takes him up there. Um, he he says that it is like the reason why you're on trial is not because not necessarily you attacked the king, but you attacked the whole house. Like you attacked the whole kingdom because you attacked the sigil of the Targaryens. And what we know about the Targaryens, Jordan, is that they are very much like scorch earth type of house. So I agree with you in the sense of like I'd kind of read when I first watched this, I kind of read it as maybe Aegon was scared of Dunk, but I actually think it's more to do with the fact with like he does tie it somewhat to religion, but I think actually he sees it as a chance for more bloodshed of the noble houses around him that he doesn't really respect. Like that's the way I almost read it, where Arion's like, I'm willing to take on seven because that's a chance to knock out seven of you all at once. Because he's just so cocky that like
Well, one thing we learned too, right, is he thinks he is a dragon.
yes. So
You
he
know,
thinks he
he,
can take on
yeah.
multiple at once. And I think that's more of where his head is. Makar, I think when he questions Arion, I think it's actually Makar's a coward. Like I feel like Makar's like, I would never do that. Are you crazy? Like, are you stupid? Like, are you scared, boy? I think
Mm.
Makar's actually scared too. Cause I just
See,
get
I
this
read it.
sense of like, I don't
I
know.
kind of read that as like him being a little embarrassed by his
He
son,
is. Yeah.
kind of pulling this, which I think is he sees it as like a bush league move.
Yeah.
Apparently, Makar doesn't even know what a trial of seven
Yeah.
is
That was
because it
my
is so
favorite part.
old, right? That
Yeah.
Baelor knows because it shows
Yeah.
how good Baelor is as the hand of a king and how he's actually the really only respectable Targaryen in this time. It seems like, but no, that's interesting viewpoint there. I think you can kind of read it either way because I think the way most read it, or that I definitely read it, is that he's almost trying to maybe not even like scared of Dunk, but almost just like doesn't see it as worth it to
Yeah.
even have this trial by combat. So he thinks, and I think another clue to that is the fact that he recruits Stefan Fossaway
Hmm.
to his side too. Is he thinks then that Dunk has six and he takes away another. There's no way he's getting two more at that point. So I think he almost sees it as like a chance for like to still punish Dunk without having to go through the actual trial.
Yeah.
Um, because if he could have found one champion and then, Arion would have found a champion and the trial by combat would have happened. But pulling the seven means that this guy is in a all-time bad spot trying to find all these people. And really for a while during this, people keep asking Dunk, who do you have? He's like, I got Stefan Fossaway. Like that's
Yeah.
all he had at a certain point. Um, but so they go to he goes to the Fossaways, and Stefan says he'll fight for Dunk, and he kind of like slanders the Targaryens like Raymond was last episode, and says that it's commendable for him. Dunk's whole answer is that as a knight, you're supposed to stand up for the unprotected, right? The innocent is, I think, the word that they've continued to use. And Baelor tries to. I don't think Baelor agrees with Aegon, but he tells Dunk like how this is going to be framed, right? Baelor's like, he thinks he's a dragon. Tanzel was doing a play about slaying the dragon. This is our family sigil. They are making like a mockery of it by showing and cheering when the dragon is defeated. It can be seen as treason. I don't think Baelor actually agrees with that, because Dunk says like, do you agree with that? And Baelor doesn't really say. But in my opinion, I think he's like, probably not, but he doesn't really feel like slandering the other Targaryens at that point. And he is kind of phrasing it, especially when you see what happens at the end and Baelor joining his side, right? I think he's really trying to help Dunk out the best he can here to walk this fine line of what's going on, and him, telling him how it's going to be phrased. Like, be ready to kind of prepare yourself that this is how it's going to look to our family and to somebody like Maekar and somebody like Aegon, that it looks like it's a treasonous act, which I think just makes the Targaryens look even more weak. And I think this shows, again, from what we were talking about last episode, the kind of position that this family is in as rulers right now, or they're not very popular. There's a scene in the novella that's not shown at this point. It's when he's going to, when he has his knights and he's going to the battlefield. A lot of the small folk, the common folk, are giving him praise for sticking to his vows. They might still show that next week, but because there's going to be a little bit of time, I think, between what we just saw and the actual melee, because there's a little bit of gap in the novella too. So maybe they'll show it then instead. Maybe they wanted to kind of show. But I think even if you see like the common folk that are watching, that are not the nobles, I feel like they seem very into it when they're watching and seeing what he's saying. So maybe they just streamlined it. I don't know. But like, again, this is another point that these Targaryens are not very popular right now with the common folk, and that they are Team Dunk at this point, and they see him as a very honorable man.
Yeah, and I think they show how the common folk feel about the Targaryens, because when
Steely
he
Pate.
goes, that, and when he goes after, when Aerion takes out the horse, the common people are pissed. So it's like, so you clearly know that the common people don't like the Targaryen house, which, I mean, you get a sense all across Westeros, nobody likes the Targaryens. But it is funny that they haven't quite shown the reaction to, because they've not really had the chance to show Dunk interacting with common folk after, because he's been imprisoned. So it's kind of hard to, and like you said, I imagine that, because it did kind of have that feel of like they're going to present the seven fighting against one another, and then you're going to see maybe some interaction as they're heading back to maybe starting places or whatever it might be, back to the stable or whatever, before the actual fight where they're going to have interactions with other people. But again, you just you get the sense that that the storm is a brewing, and in this episode it just felt like the whole time
Laughing Storm.
Yeah, right. That
Lionel?
that Baelor is, I don't know, even up until this point, you got a sense that Baelor was like not totally on board with Aegon, and that he quite dislikes his nephew.
Yeah. Steely Pate, though, is another example of this, where they go to, he says Tanzel left the shield with him. They go to his wagon and they look at this shield, and Steely Pate says that he added like new metal around the sides
Yeah.
because it was rusted, and kind of reinforced it and added a strap to the back. And Dunk's like, great, like how much is this going to cost? He says, for you, a copper. A copper is a very small amount compared to what he's been uh, paying for other stuff. So it's again kind of showing like we agree with what you've done, and here is the here's your discount, your discount here. But going back to when he's meeting with the Fossaways, Egg comes in and says that Daeron, Maekar, and 3 Kingsguard are fighting for Aegon. So he's already got 6 out of 7. And Daeron arrives and says he'll easily go down, and kind of apologizes to him, but he says he was in a spot where he was, I think it's understandable in the sense of he probably just hopped onto the wagon of hearing that this guy did something and that Egg was with him, and says, "Oh, he kidnapped Egg, so I don't get in trouble," right? Like that's what Daeron is thinking is,
100%. Yeah.
I cannot get in trouble with my dad right now, so I am going to blame this guy that already has this like steam locomotive of accusations hurling at him.
Yeah.
And then when he sees him, or Egg has a chance to actually discuss this with him, he comes and apologizes and says, "Hey, look, kind of knocked me out. I'll go down. I'll stay out of the way." And you're really only fighting 6 at that point, right? He does mention his dream again to Dunk, and he says there was a huge dragon that was dead on top of him, and Dunk was alive. And Dunk asked, "Did I slay the dragon?" And he says he doesn't know. You haven't finished the novella, right? You
No.
stop at
No.
times. Okay, what's
Mhm.
your? Let's get some speculation then. What do you think this means?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I think going back to their time on Game of Thrones, the Targaryens have the ability, they're vision seers, so they can see into the future and see different things. So I think
Yeah, we
obviously
have
Dunk,
what's her name on House of Dragon? Helena, or
yes,
one of them?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you get allusion to the fact that the Targaryens can see into the future. We know Dunk's end because of Game of Thrones, because it's mentioned that he goes down in flames basically, and it's basically the same kind of thing where he's attacking a dragon. And I mean, obviously, attacking a dragon means the sigil of the House of Targaryen, and I think that is Dunk is the person that takes down the house. Like I think it's metaphorical, and I don't think it's not necessarily. It could be figurative. I mean literal, but it's definitely figurative too. That you take down a dragon, you're taking down the Targaryen house. So I really do. I think that this is a future telling of like how Dunk goes down. Because I think the thing that really struck me was Daron when he says it. He goes, "I can't tell if you won or if you struck down the dragon."
Yeah, he
I was
doesn't
like,
know if he was the one that like struck him
right.
down, or if he's just like if the dragon's just dead on top of him.
Yeah, right. So are they both dead? Like that's the other thing too. I was like, is this the ending of Dunk and Egg, or is it another point where he's taken down a dragon? So that was my thought. Was like, is he talking about his death, or is he talking about maybe a time he takes down a dragon? How many dragons? Like I don't know if we know that, like how many
Mhm.
dragons existed before Daenerys had the eggs, but yeah, we shall see.
We shall see. Yeah. Um, like I said, we mentioned the Steely Pate stuff. Okay, then Egg is going to bring Lionel, Baratheon. He brings Robin, who was the guy missing the eye from last episode. They have Harding, who was the one that lost his horse last episode, and Humphrey Beesbury, who we haven't really seen much of, but he's got like the bee
Hmm.
hives on his armor. That gives Dunk 6 out of 7 until Stefan Fossaway shows up and states that he will fight for Aegon and be granted a lordship. Raymond is pissed. What was your reaction to this?
I was floored because he has such a good moment with Stefan. Like, I will help you rally the troops,
It felt
basically.
very sincere. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. And I was like, okay. And then it's kind of like, oh, so he's not such a shit knight. And even Raymond's kind of like, all right, I kind of buy into that. Like he goes, he doesn't necessarily like you, but he hates the Targaryens. Is
Yeah.
basically is what he's saying, and it's fascinating that this is because I was like, no way, but then I was like, okay, I know where this is headed. Raymond's gonna have a chance of revenge against his old cousin. So I was like, this was cool. I was like, I was not ready for that. But again, Jordan, it kind of shows that Arian didn't have the relationships that he thought he had with the other houses that would have stood up for him. And all of these houses are now aligning. Even the Fossaways at that point were aligning with Dunk. It took bribery to get
Mhm.
Stefan to go, you know what? No, you were in the wrong, Dunk. So everybody is backing Dunk, and that's got to feel pretty good. And
They're like
uh,
backing him without backing him. So I
right,
would say what a lot of these knights are doing, right, is I don't want to upset the king, even if I agree with Dunk. So I am not going to fight for either side, right? Stefan was somebody that declared for Dunk privately. Um, I'm really curious to see if it was that he was looking for a way to use this, or if the opportunity came up. Like maybe rumors are going around that Fossaway is working with Dunk, and then Arian approaches him and says, "Hey, if you don't, I'm going to grant you this, lordship," and kind of bribe him. Or if it's like, "Oh, now that I've declared, like now that I've told him, and I know this, maybe I can go to Targaryen myself and do." I want to really know who initiated it because I don't think it's clear, but um, because what the whole thing was supposed to be, right? That Stefan Fossaway is going to get people for Dunk. He's going to get others for Dunk, and it looks like it worked. He shows up with Lionel and Robin and Harding, and Dunk is like, wow, like he's talking to Lionel Baratheon, says like, did Stefan Fossaway like thank you for talking to him and stuff, and he's like, who? No, no, your little boy brought me over here.
the squire that's like over there pretending to fight the kid.
Yeah, and it's
That
like,
one, the
oh, and
bald
you know
one.
what? Obviously, he can use his position as a
Yes.
Targaryen to
Yeah.
also get people to fight for their side. So,
Yeah. Like,
but no, when I was listening to audiobook and I'm driving, I think I was driving
yeah.
home from work that day, and this happens. I was like, "You jerk, this
Yeah.
Stefan." I mean, it is
Yeah.
maddening because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is like the only guy he has, and you're like, oh,
Mm,
what? What a jerk. I already didn't like him from earlier in the story, but when you have like that moment is the dagger,
mhm.
and Raymond is pissed, and he is like, look, I'll be knighted to do this. And Logan,
Yeah.
this is where I'm going to talk. We talked in episode 1. Do you think Dunk is really knighted by Sir Arlen? This is another bit of information that people use as an example that he was potentially lying about being knighted, is that he hesitates and does not knight Raymond when Raymond asks, because any knight can knight him, but he hesitates. And in the book, it kind of says something like something about a lie later on, that all of this was going on due to a lie. And I think you're supposed to maybe think that lie is that the argument of Dunk doing this to Arian, right? But I think a lot of people are reading that as the fact he doesn't knight him is because he knows he cannot knight him.
Mhm.
And he steps away, and Lionel's like, yeah, go ahead, I'll knight him. And it makes Raymond an official knight. Uh, Raymond is one of my favorite characters in this novella because of how much he hates his cousin, and that he'll do something in the next episode to make his Fossaway shield a little different from Stefan's, because he takes this to heart so much, that I think is really cool. Um, so hopefully they keep that. That's why I also think there will be time between this and the fight, but because he needs to get armor, he's sitting there without
Yeah.
anything on. Um, but yeah, so what do you make of that, of potentially this being another piece of evidence that he's not an actual knight?
Yeah, the more I've started to listen to it, I'm like, I actually am convinced now that he wasn't. And somebody else made a really good point of like, here is this guy that is very noble, very honorable, and so you would think even his flashbacks would show the truth, and
And
it
they haven't.
never shows that he's been knighted. So
And
that's
even
making me think like, yeah,
dude,
maybe he's not.
somebody mentioned this on, I think it was Reddit or Twitter or something.
Mhm.
But when he's looking up at
Yeah.
the
The Ghost of
lords,
Arlen.
the
Oh,
lords,
oh,
and
oh,
then
yeah,
you
yeah, yep.
see the Ghost of Arlen, and he
Yeah.
shrugs.
Yeah.
That is the
Like,
perfect
kinda like
time for the flashback of him knighting him, because it being
Yeah.
like it's going on at the same time that Raymond is
That's a
being
good
knighted.
point. That's a good point.
Raymond is looking up at Lionel getting knighted, and they show Dunk looking up, and Arlen's like, meh.
Yeah. Kinda like, "Eh, whatever." I
And
do
to
like that.
me, I do think now, as somebody that read this book thinking that he is knighted, I am now thinking he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, there's a lot of people leaning that way. Like, a lot of people that I've listened to now are leaning more towards, "I think he made that shit up." Like, I think he made it up because it's like, well, he didn't really make it up, like, he doesn't have to really say, like, who's gonna tell him that he's not? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean?
The only
Who's
one
really
there was a
it
bird,
was
right?
him, right, yeah. Like, is the bird
Um,
gonna squawk? The one-eyed raven comes out of nowhere and goes, "He's lying."
and the other piece of information, if people didn't listen to our first episode, is that when he is contemplating what he's doing next after Arlen's death, there is no thought when he's talking to the horses or anything about going to this thing and continuing or doing anything nightly. He's like, I can sell you, but how long is that going to help me? And it's not until he's acting like the King's Guard, where he says, "Stop raping, sir," right? That he is kind of like feeling like, oh, he even says, "This fits me as good as him," like me holding this sword. And to me, that kind of line means I can be a knight. I'm holding this just like Sir Arlen did. Like, why can't I be a knight? And there is, you would think we would, like you said, you would think we would have seen the flashback of him being knighted, because we continue to see flashbacks when he's talking to others about how Sir Arlen was. And even then, when he's talking about how great Sir Arlen was, a lot of those flashbacks are not like really great things that he's doing, right? So Dunk is already kind of a unreliable narrator in that regard. He's talking about how great he is. He's walking out and like peeing, right? He's
Nothing
uh
is yeah, nothing's
slapping
been
him,
great. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so uh I do think the more I think about it, the more, and I'm gonna re-listen to it. I actually just bought the audiobook instead of using the library now, because there's a line, a line um for the wait for
Yeah.
the audiobook now, because there was no line when this was getting ready to premiere. I
Yeah.
listened to it, no problem. And I wanted to re-listen to it again, or whatever, and there's a line now, and I had a $15 credit on Audible, and so it was free. I was like, I'm just gonna use this to get this book, and um, I'll be able to listen to the second one like after I decided I'm gonna listen to the second one after the um finale at some point.
Okay.
Um, but yeah,
Can I
so
just
then
say something in
yeah, go
that,
ahead.
like, in that this is a good place to fit it. Like, I was on X, Jordan, and I'm talking, like, sports people, uh, nerd podcasts, like, everybody was tweeting or Xing about this. Like, everybody is now
They're crossing?
jumping, yeah, they're crossing about this. No, but, like, I mean, sports stars and, they're all on breaks and stuff like that. Like, a lot of them, like football, basketball players are going to the All-Star break soon. Like, a lot of them are starting to watch this, and it's gaining a lot of attention across, like, all the sports writers I watch keep tweeting about it. I'm like, this is funny because there were people that had no idea there was another Game of Thrones, like, this was even coming. Like, I have multiple people that were like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was coming." Or I've mentioned it now, and they're like, "What are you talking about? There's another Game of Thrones thing?" I was like, "Yes." Like, yesterday, I was just hanging out with 2 friends, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know there was another spinoff of it." I was like, "How are you guys not like, it just blows my mind because of how good it is that people aren't tuned in that loved Game of Thrones. Like, it blows my mind, but I thought it fit well in there because now that you mentioned that, like, I guarantee you everybody's lining up to try to read this thing or get the audio version of this thing.
Yeah, I mean the top 10 series today, Night of the
Yeah.
Seven Kingdoms is above The Pit, which was
Yeah.
a big hit on its own, right?
It's
I
passed a
mean,
bunch of people. Oh yeah, The Pit's been like the best HBO performance since Game of Thrones.
right. So I mean, it's definitely doing well in the it's finding its audience. It seems like people
Big
weren't
time.
aware of it, and they've heard the good things, and they're now checking it out. And I think it's been unanimous praise almost critically for the first. They got to see all the episodes, but you know, since episode 1, people saying how much they liked it. It's really picked up. I mean, as much as I like the first 2 episodes, 3 and 4 have been just, like, so great, you know?
A 9.1 and a
And
9.7 on IMDb, that's, like,
yeah,
damn
it's
good.
great. We also get, so Raymond's getting knighted. Dunk is saying he'll fight with 6, and they're like, "You can't do that." So he says, "Can I have a moment?" And, Lord Ashford says, "Yeah." And this is where he gives that epic speech, the "Are there no true knights?" You know, what happened? He's even asking kind of like what happened to, like honor in Westeros, like I did what any knight should have done. Why can you not stand up for this as well? Obviously, the answer is there's a lot of pressure because it's up against the Targaryens. Um, then the Game of Thrones music kicks in as Baelor comes in and declares he will fight for Ser Duncan the Tall. And Makar is like, "What the hell are you doing, Baelor?" But that's kind of where we end the episode. And God, I love Baelor so much.
I can see why now. Everybody early on that had read the novellas were like, Baelor Targaryen is the best Targaryen, and it's not even close. It's
Yes,
like, I
he's
get it.
so honorable. And
Yes.
Makar is like, "Why would you do this?" And he's like, "We'll let the gods decide."
Yeah.
And there is a little wrinkle with this next week that is like not really like I don't want to say wrinkle, but there is an advantage that they have because of Baelor being on their side that I'm sure he'll discuss in the next episode before they kick it off, because it makes an even more smarter move for Baelor as well to join them. But ultimately, um, we are approaching. I would assume I have to assume that this next episode is the skirmish. And that's kind of what I've been wondering about now that we can openly say it with, this episode being the trial and everything.
Yeah.
Is when I was wondering about structure and stuff, I was kind of thinking that this would have been episode 5 and episode 6 would be the battle. But then I did tell you last week, right? I said, but usually the big things in Game of Thrones happen in the penultimate.
Yep.
So it might make sense that the battle is next, and that maybe episode 6 is just the falling action of after this trial. Which there's not a lot that happens in the novella, but they can expand on it, honestly. There's still some stuff that has to be done afterwards. So
Yeah, we're from the previews or the look forward, we're gonna get probably more flashback than we've gotten in all the other episodes. It seems to be
yeah.
young Dunk and where he comes from, and we're gonna get kind of his origin story, it looks like, in this next episode. And then I think intertwined with that, you're gonna get, what he's feeling. And maybe, maybe you're right, Jordan. Like maybe we get like the start of it and maybe the end of it in the last episode. But you're
Yeah,
right.
we could do that.
It would be kind of out of Game of Thrones, uh, I guess, order in which they do things usually, because the penultimate is usually the big one. But with it being 7 episodes, I was like, okay, then,
6.
or sorry, 6, then this would be the end of it. So, or like that penultimate might not be like,
I am thinking that they're going to have to split the battle,
yeah,
because while I did say there is some falling action and they can expand it, there's not like it helps that these are 30-minute episodes. So I
yeah,
could reasonably see it. But you're right. I forgot that the preview shows a lot of flashback stuff, and it's called
yeah,
In the Name of the Mother. Um, so maybe we get more flashbacks, and they kind of like drag it out, which might piss some people off, of course. But uh, it's well worth it in the end. It's well worth it in the end. I mean, obviously, we know Dunk survives because there's other novellas and stuff. But what was your
yeah.
thoughts on how this plays out with this battle?
I think we're gonna get a
They
lot
lose
more into,
anybody? Like, what do you think here?
yeah. In Game of Thrones fashion, I think they lose somebody.
Could
I
you imagine
think
like all 7 on each side survive? You're like, "Oh, okay,
I
that's kind of weird."
I I have a strong feeling that Baylor doesn't make it.
Mm,
That's my guess, because I feel like if it's gonna move forward, having Baylor around would be kinda weird. Not that, not that he'd be involved in a lot of that, but, like, if Arlen or sorry, Arlen, if Duncan shows up to these next couple of, things and Baylor is there, and then you kinda have, like, a kinda I mean, he respects Duncan, and clearly he's a big fan of Duncan. It makes sense for me here, kinda like the Ned Stark of things, like, this is
mm,
where he goes. I could see that. I could also see Daeron getting killed too. So like I feel very Stranger Things when I'm doing this, but then I'm like, no, Game of Thrones actually does kill people. Um, but yeah, I do
yeah.
feel like killing Daeron would be good. I don't think Arion. I think he's got a future with all of them going forward, but we'll see. But yeah, no, I'm really interested to see where this all comes ahead. I know Tansel. I mean, we really haven't gotten much with her except for her finger. Like I assumed we were going to get a heavier romantic plot, so I'm assuming that's coming.
Mm.
And then Egg, I feel like we're gonna have moments with Dunk and Egg still that are fear of losing Egg maybe or fear of losing Duncan, and both of them are kind of like, oh shit, they might die. That seems to be, but then you got you got characters like a Baratheon that Lionel is still. I freaking love this episode because Lionel's just like it was because he's the one that tells him like it was a Squire boy that did it,
Yeah.
not had nothing to do with your recruiting. I just want to party. I'm
I
just here
forget
to
how it
hang out.
happened I think it's the same way in the novella, but like I said,
Uh,
so in the novella, there is, and you know this from what you've listened to, there's,
yeah,
like, no Lionel
no,
at the
at
end at
all.
all,
Like he's non-existent.
until this moment,
Right.
and that's why I
Yeah.
was saying, like, it makes sense to introduce him in the first episode because he's gonna come back around, and they kinda
Yeah.
keep putting him in these episodes because it's gonna play a role in this episode.
Yeah.
And I think that was smart for them to do that because you really needed somebody that was a familiar face. It's also why they probably introduced Sir Robin last episode as well. Is that way you see two of these people and you're like, ah, yes. And then of course you're going to recognize maybe the guy that just had his horse killed, and if not, they make a reference to it in this episode. So you're like, oh, these are all people that have kind of had some sort of interaction with them throughout the story. In the novella, it's very much like we only see him with the Fossways, and then Stefan saying, I'm going to go get Lionel and these other people. And then, you do get the same line though, where he says something about like Stefan, and he's like, who? No, that guy brought your squire brought
Yeah.
me. You're like, oh, like it's also a little bit of a hint at Fossway has not done what he was supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, but yeah, so again, it really made sense to have those characters earlier in the show because when you're again, you only have 30 minutes. It's a very short novella. Putting these characters earlier in the story that when it gets here, you don't have to explain who all of these people are. You've interacted with them. You've had great moments with them. Lionel, everybody really likes him, it seems like online. So uh it just makes it land a little better than the novella. So it's a good change. There was a good change in this.
Yeah. No, I love this, and um, the thing that really shocked me is I was listening more and more cast interviews about this show, Jordan, and I would say a majority, if not all of them, had not seen Game of Thrones, which is crazy to
It
think.
was
And
one of
I
the
get that
like
they're
biggest shows.
professionals, right? But
Yeah.
like most of them have not seen it, so them acting in it, like the guy that plays Lionel Ings, he had never seen it. He started watching it when he got the part, but he had never seen it. So like a lot of this is going off of, and he'd only seen a couple seasons, but when they started filming, a lot of this is just going off of their instincts and like their ability to tell stories, like the writers to be able to tell stories, like an Ira Parker or like a George
And the direction
Martin,
of
like
telling the
right.
actors of what they need to yeah.
Yes, but it's amazing to me because a lot of them had not seen like the guy that plays, the guys that play the Targaryen brothers are not they had not seen it. So it's like, man, all these people are because of how good of the direction is, they're able to tell this story. And I will continue to say this, and I know it ranks higher than all the Game of Thrones series right now, and definitely House of the Dragon. This is peak storytelling in Westeros. And I think if you're listening to this or you're watching this and you hadn't seen Game of Thrones, and you're probably like, well, you just ruined everything for us. But uh, I still think that this is better than better than both of those, which is wild to say because of how much I love Game of Thrones. But this show is just so good, and the turns that it takes and the character building in it, even though it's such a small, what feels like a small project, it seems really big on scale.
Yeah, I've really have enjoyed watching this show, each week, and then being able to discuss it. Our episodes discussing it are longer than the episodes of the show.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like we've really done a good job on the coverage. I'm gonna miss it, and we only got 2 left. Obviously, we got this one done so much earlier because of the early airing. So now we don't have another episode until the 15th. So that'll be sometime in the middle of that week, probably, that we get an episode up about this. But it's been a great time talking Westeros and having people be excited for it again. Game of Thrones, even though I like most of the ending, people were really like turning on that show. That when House of the Dragon was coming out, they're like, "Why do I care?" Then the first season of House of the Dragon came out, and people were like, "This is really good." And then they all turned on the show after the second season because of some choices that were made. And then it's just happy that like this show is surviving. It shows that you can have a hit Westeros show and it's doing numbers, right? And the brand is not damaged from the ending
Yeah.
of Game of Thrones. It's not damaged from House of the Dragon. People are still showing up because they care about this world. And I think that's kind of amazing, actually. So hopefully that continues and that they continue to just put really good stories together in this world. Obviously, the biggest part of it is that they have the blueprint from George, right? Like he wrote these novellas, some of the best lines from it, like this speech, are ripped right from those pages. And that's something that House of the Dragon doesn't have because of the historical textbook way that the show is done. So or the book was done. All right, anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I'm looking for. I'm not looking forward to the end, but I'm looking forward to the end of it.
Yeah, you want to see what happens, but you're
Yeah.
sad that the good thing is it's a a yearly show at this point. They're already filming season 2. I think they started in December.
Yep.
So I would assume around the same time next year we'll be back talking the second one.
It's wild.
So that's really awesome.
I missed that.
Me too.
I missed that, man. I miss. I know it's a lot of work on the actors and writers and everything else, but man, I really miss yearly drops of my favorite TV shows, especially as they've gotten shorter and shorter. Like you and I are rewatching Scrubs, like you just finished it. I'm just rewatching it. Like to have, and I'm watching Party of Five. Each of them have 24 or 25, depending on writer strikes and stuff. But most of them were bought for, their contracts were 24. They were ordered for 24 episodes a season. And it's just so weird whenever, nowadays you don't have shows that really go, anything that goes over 10, people are like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But
yeah.
It's kind of
the
wild.
sad thing. I mean, obviously, network TV still does those.
Yeah,
they don't even get up to 24 anymore, really.
No, and they take
more
huge
like
breaks too. They take they're like 3 weeks in between 4 episodes each time. It's like, dude, how many breaks do you need? I get it. You don't want to work too much.
And I know HBO usually does 10 and stuff, but again, and I know the budgets on these shows are probably big and they take a while, but again, I will just always say Game of Thrones for the first like 7 years was a yearly show.
Yeah.
And that had huge budgets, huge actors, tons of filming. We can get back to that. I do think
filming.
Obviously the strikes hurt, the COVID hurt, a lot of stuff really hurt TV production stuff, but it is a shame that we're celebrating the fact that this is a yearly show when we used to get that all the time. So
yeah, anything that drops yearly now, it's like a big thing. So
yeah,
it's all penny pinching.
I'll even take like every 18 months. I just can't do
the 2 or 3
years every time.
Yeah, it's derails like the momentum.
Yeah.
You're just like, wait, what happened? I remember when like with Stranger Things, I had to go back and like watch each of the seasons, and no fault of their own because they ran into some weird stuff. But it was like it kind of harmed the show for people that didn't want to go back and rewatch it. Like people would pick back up and go, where the hell are we? I'm just confused. So
All right. Well, you can follow Soups and Sabers at Soups and Sabers on all of our social media. I just posted our Wonder Man coverage. Jack joined me on there. We talked all 8 episodes of Wonder Man. Very great show on in the MCU. Sometimes you forget you're watching MCU thing. It's very much about like Hollywood and a person with superpowers working in that industry and all that kind of stuff. So it's very fun, very good. But we just posted our episode about that. So that's up there. And really, we don't have anything else coming up except for this until we get to Daredevil Born Again in March. We got Maul Shadow Lord in April. So more stuff coming up for us over there. Logan, where can people follow your podcast?
Yeah, the Screen Society podcast. If you search that up in the search bars, I'll drop some of the in my side of the episodes. I usually drop in like the actual username because the characters were too long to fit in there. So I've got all sorts of weird usernames. But if you search the Screen Society podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and all the socials. Started posting some TikToks. I'm going to try to clip this one because we got a long time between episodes. I'll try to clip Jordan and I talking about this episode over on TikTok, and I'll throw some other content up there as well. But we're talking about The Pit and Shrinking right now over on Apple TV Plus for Shrinking, and then The Pit is on HBO Max as well. 2 of my favorite shows that I've ever watched, so definitely tune into those episodes. I just recorded both of those recaps, and I drop all of those usually Sunday, Monday, so be on the lookout for that. But Jordan, it's been a lot of fun jumping on here talking Game of Thrones. Like, I never thought I would be on here talking about a Game of Thrones show that had all this hype after that first one hit the zeitgeist and became one of the biggest in TV history. So,
yeah. And if you want to look for it, there was a podcast we made called Quarantine and Chill.
Yeah.
Back in 2020 that you can find.
Baby.
And we talked about Logan's first watch of Game of Thrones in 2 episodes. Wild. Me, Matt, Logan. We, Matt and I had already seen it. Logan was watching it, and I think we did up till season 4, and then 5 through 8 on another
something like that
podcast or something. But those are up there from 2020 that you.
I got to go listen to those. I got to go listen to those.
But yeah, so those are fun things too. Also on my end here on Soups and Sabers, I also post your links in my description as well.
Okay, well, nice of you.
Liked you more than me, so there you go.
Right.
Thank you all for watching and listening along, and we'll catch you next time when we talk episode 5.